computer. All right. So I think it's a great metaphor, and then I want to tie it together with how we can do this in our own lives, in each situation. I mean, Sarah talked about many situations that you found yourself in that were like, oh, the debris pile shaking. And then sometimes we can get away from those situations, and sometimes we can't. And if we can't, then I think it's best that we have a very good practice of peace. And that is the same with riding our horses. And so with Grace, she said, let's go. And I said, you bet, let's go, until she felt calm. But not necessarily going all the way and running back into the barn and standing by the horses, because that isn't going to teach her calm. That's going to teach her how to have a drink, or, take a drug, or, go shopping, buy some new boots. It is a condition-based piece. So when we went to and she dictated where that distance was when her level came down. And we remained on that line. And here's the hard part. And Ava, I've got to use Ava's quote. I've used it ever since you wrote it on a comment on Facebook. Ava says, why is the easy so hard? Right? And I love that. I'm going to have to get you royalties on that one, because, Grace and I did nothing, and we did everything. I didn't take a step towards it, but the name of this group, the idea I had was just look. Just look. That's the hardest things for human beings, because we want we want to analyze, we want to control, manipulate. And I am, as I was writing in this blog, I was also saying, I'm not talking about being passive. I wasn't passive with my horse at all. If I was passive, she would have ended up in the barn with the other horses. I was supportive. And it was so funny, because as I was sitting on her back, and the burn pile was about, 40, 50 feet away, her little ears were like periscopes. You could tell where her attention was. And it was everywhere but there. It was over there, over there, over there. Where's my escape route? And that's what people do too. They want to look for an escape. And the thing is that if we can't look at what we're afraid of, we'll never get over it. And we'll never find another way. And in my deepest philosophy, life is about love and fear. And making our choices based from one or the other source. And whatever source we choose is going to have its own effect. So what happens in our world is as much an effect as a cause. So, and I always quote Viktor Frankl's book, was that Man's Search for Meaning, because he was in a German concentration camp and he was able to find freedom. And he actually lived through it enough to tell. You know that book, Ellen? John does. Yeah, good. You want to jump in there, John? Feel free, please. Unmute.
just to say, I had the pleasure of hearing Viktor Frankl die, not to die.
Die? Wow, that had to have been insane.
I heard him talk before he died, which is a
Uh-huh.
good thing because I wouldn't want to hear him talk after he died.
Yeah, or maybe you would. I don't
Maybe I
know.
would. But you just such a powerful presentation. He was advanced in age when I saw him. But the whole idea about finding meaning in a concentration camp
Yeah.
and putting your life in perspective is just really very powerful.
Yes. Thank you. And that's exactly what we can do here. And I mean, he's always my mentor because if he can do it there, I can do it in paradise. And he realized that, I mean, they killed his family, his pregnant wife and his parents. And he realized while in that ditch that they didn't take him from her or them. He felt them. And you cannot do that through an intellectual uh, understanding at that which passeth all understand, right? How do we know? And so I was going to follow up with Grace's uh, the and that what happened next is part of the metaphor as she's looking for escape, and I would just rub her neck and say, whisper, just look, just look. And I couldn't make her look, nor did I want to make her look, but I was giving her the opportunity to look. And then it was just a few minutes. And those ears just went boom like that. And those big black eyes softened. She looked, she lowered her head, she let out a big blow, started licking her lips. It was a complete shift in her belief system. And then we went back in the barn. And that was that. And how you leave it is how you find it. So we can do that. Magnus and I do this almost, well, several times a week during our burn pile experiences, you know, when there's disruption and chaos and there's plenty of that to practice. Oh, good, Rachel's son. Um, and and so many times, if one or the other of us is on this mind attack, but feeding, so not sure how it will work. Okay, Rachel, it's daylight savings for everybody, right? For us, but not her. Um, so we will, one or the other of us might be in that periscope ear thing, looking for the escape. I remember this one story about a gal, Eckhart Tolle interviewed. I don't remember her name, but she was a self-help guru, and she got taken by Madoff. Remember Madoff with all everybody's money? And they lost everything. They lost her house. They lost everything they had. They lost everything. And she later was being interviewed by Tolle, and she told this story that her friends would call up and say, but you're a self-help coach. I mean, where is your practice? And she says, this is no time to be spiritual. And it is the perfect time to be spiritual. It is the only thing that we can do when we can't do anything else. And as Ava and I discussed, it is the easiest thing in the world to do nothing. And the hardest thing to do? Nothing. Because we're in that reactive state. Did you want to share?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to say, because for me, not being a horse person, working with horses, the experience with the burn pile for me is a thought, an opinion about myself or something. And it's remarkably difficult to just look at it. Usually I want to feel different than I'm feeling. So then I get all disappointed that I can't change how I feel. And that just makes it worse. Or I try to blame someone for this. Or there's all these, like you say, escapes. And just sitting down and like contemplating this idea about what's wrong can be so hard. It's remarkable. It can ruin a whole day.
It used to ruin.
It used to ruin my life.
Yeah, right,
continuously.
Literally.
And so then I had to go to alcohol to find some kind of relief.
Yeah.
But as we're getting more clarity on like what these concepts, what does it mean to look at the burn pile when you don't have a burn pile in front of me? For me, I really got clear this week when we were whatever was going on, and you were helping me to just look. And I'm sitting here on a couch, she's sitting over there in a chair, and I just like I couldn't look.
The ears.
It's remarkable, really remarkable. And then when I'm out of that, what we call the mind attack, then it seems just ridiculous that I couldn't look. But when I was in it, I mean,
yeah,
it's
like
incredible.
when Grace responded to the burn pile, that was not the time to tell her to look.
Yeah.
There has to be some grace. There has to be an understanding, because no one can force us to look.
Yeah, and I think what you mentioned also in that as human beings, we often think that we got to take some kind of action.
Mm-hmm.
There is some, and when I don't know what to do, then it just gets so frustrating. But that has nothing to do with just looking, just stepping back and look at a thought. I mean, is it remarkable?
Now I'll give the nuts and bolts on this. I'll give the how-to kind of how we go through this. Is this part of curiosity, Rachel says. Yeah, the difference between curiosity and escape or fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because if we should pull the chat up, I see other chats that I want to be able to read. God, me and this, right? There. All right. All right, I think it's all good. So, and Rachel, we were talking about this week in depth about what are we looking at? Okay, so we want to understand that if we're just looking through fear at fear, we're not going to be able to, you're not going to make peace out of fear. You're going to practice more fear. But what we do is we look at how do we feel over the details. Okay, so there's like levels. The very upper level, the surface level is details. I mean, our government right now gives us a new one every day. It's so many different things that there's no way we can make sense out of it. It isn't going to happen. But what we can do to bring it down and have a more success of seeing is to understand how we feel about it. And then we would say, you know, you hear it all the time. So how do you feel? Well, I'm being threatened. No, that's not a feeling. You may feel fear or defense, but I'm being threatened is still a thing doing, a stimulus. How do you feel when you're threatened? And then you go and you look at that feeling. And then you go beyond that into, and this gets down to the nitty-gritty. Who is looking? That one requires some practice. If I am describing my hand, I am not my hand. I have a descriptive labeling that comes from the mind. But in order to describe something, there must be an observer. And when you go deeper yet, you can check in. How does the observer feel? Is the observer hooked? Is the observer running? And depending on the source of our observation, this is I can't emphasize this enough. It is a really important practice, because if the observer also feels fear, then you're not there yet. You got to go deeper, deeper. Keep coming back. And you want to tell about the at work this week? Is a great example.
Oh yeah. It has to do with wanting things to be different than they are. I work in a factory, and so there's nothing glamorous about it at all. And I work there because I need the money.
To build decks.
So I can build a deck. Sit on the deck. Because that's really what I want to do. But I had this week, I had some real surrender sitting there, realizing that this is my life right now. And I found peace there, which is very unusual, because usually I'm just like, okay, 3 more hours and then I can go home. But it's a hard way to live so many hours out of the day just looking at the clock. And we've been talking about this for a long time, but then all of a sudden it kind of dawns on me, and it becomes an experience rather than just something intellectually I know I could potentially have peace wherever I am.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
with continuous practice, because we do practice like all the time and help each other out. Usually I'm getting help, but
we help each other.
But I keep her
honest.
on well and you know, what's that?
Well, like
conditioned so you're not losing your touch.
Like I said, the other group, when I don't remember what had stimulated me, but I said, after all these years, I'm still just a fuck up.
Yeah.
You know, because that is part of the experience. We don't want to throw the baby out with bathwater. We want to empathize and understand what is driving it. That's the purpose for suffering, is because otherwise, and in horses, it happens all the time, that the burn pile scenario, you got all you horse gals will nod your head to, you've seen yourself or others. The horse can't even look at it, yet we push them through it. We push them right into it. And even if we're 50 feet away, if we're pushing one step, we're pushing. I was very good at, there's an old saying, looking good, going nowhere. You know, I loved my horses. And I could show I loved them, and I'd still be pushing them. So I had to get humble. And we do that with ourselves. You know, one of the things this week was Magnus wasn't feeling good. And that health, as we could talk about, all of us, you know, go through when our bodies are compromised and we're not in good health. And you know, we can handle a day of rest, but 2 days is getting in the way. 3 days is out of the question. a life, a month, or, I had it for, had some symptoms for 2 years. That was quite a life experience for me. So wishing things were different than they are. So we're not asking to condone what we don't want, but it's just the opposite. Don't feed it. I forgot, I was talking to one of you guys here, I forget which conversation, but I was talking about, it's like when Muji would say, if you're living in an apartment or something and there's a knock at the door and you open the door and the neighbor comes in and he sits down on the couch and he grabs the remote and he says, get me some pizza. And while you're at it, get me a beer. And you're like, what are you doing in my house? Get out of my house. It's like, yeah, whatever. You got that beer yet? And then pretty soon this person is not leaving your house and you're getting angry and jumping up and down, but he's not. Now he's in your bed. And what are you going to do? Muji asked this question and I answered the question. This is also something I wanted to say. In my sessions, in my work with people, I've always said, I don't ask the question for the answer. I ask the question for the looking. There's a big difference. The answer is going to be different next week. The answer is going to change with our environment and our conditions. But the practice of understanding, that's what makes a difference in our lives. And so when Muji asked that, I really looked. And this is what I came up with. I think I'm pretty proud of this. I share it quite often. I said, well, I'd turn off the power. And I would not stock the refrigerator. And there would be nothing there for him. It's like a dog jumping. Gretchen has a new puppy, so I can use a dog metaphor here. And look at that love. Ooh, she's like, I'm in love. You want to show Poppy? Okay. I think she's going to show Poppy. Maybe she's getting too big. Oh my God, she's grown.
Wow. In a couple of weeks.
Oh God, she's 3 times as big. I just met her last week. What are you feeding that dog? But anyway, a brilliant dog trainer told me when we got Scout, our pup, she said, first thing she did when she walked in the house, the dog ran to jump on her and she just turned her back. She just turned her back. You run around in the other way, turn the back the other way. I do it all the time with these dogs at 7 a.m. They want to go out and chew on bones and they get all ramped up. And I just, and then they sit down and then I go, okay, now we'll go. So our mind, to go back to the guy in the apartment that wants, what happens when we are feeding thoughts or even actions, if they're coming from fear, we are feeding that guy. That's what Magnus and I call the mind attack identity. That guy. We feed that guy. And he strengthens. And he comes back. And then pretty soon he moves in. And, I think we've all had experiences in our life when we have felt victimized by our own psyche, our own thoughts. we can't be free. And it may be politics, it may be the death of a loved one, it may be the weather, or poverty or health. I mean, there's no shortage there's no shortage of opportunities to get better at freedom. Good. You must have read my mind, because I thought, I am so tired of hearing myself talk. Does anybody want to say anything? And there's a hand. And we got Ellen too. Ellen, you're right up after Sarah or John.
I just wanted to share that, like, one of the things that, patience was a big, because I think I've discussed with you before that I'm really good at training people to do physical stuff through practice, but the emotional regulation, like when we practice fear, our first reaction is going to be fear. And the rescue itself was devastating for me. It just emotionally wrung me out. And I was still figuring out what happened to me during that rescue. And the book has really helped me process a lot of that. But one of the things that I had never even considered before is that I'm very emotionally sensitive to other beings' emotions, and I absorb them and I experience them as my own. So, when I'm at the barn and I have these upset horses, I have these upset people, and I'm now an emotional wreck because I was still in my ego. I was thinking this was all coming from me, and I want to just share a really interesting sort of insight I had at one point, which was we had a little mare named Baby because she was the youngest one there, and she was on the verge of foundering. She had terrible laminitis. She could barely walk. And so I had to put her on stall rest in the barn because we didn't have a dry lot for her, and even if we did, she just couldn't move around without a lot of pain. I had to tape foam pads to her feet, which was always interesting. But there was this one time I was in the barn with her and I was cleaning stalls, and I just got this overwhelming sense of just being pissed off, and anxious, like at all these, you're not gonna be able to find homes for anybody. You're gonna have to put down the stallions. You're gonna have to put down the old ones. Like, it was just all this like anxiety and fear and tension. And I'm just like, where is this coming from? And I remember I even stepped out of the stall and just like screamed because I was like, I've got to get this off of me. And I tried playing the radio. Usually classical music soothes me. I put classical music on. It just made me even more mad. And finally I just had this memory of driving down to Florida on spring break with my friend Winnie. So I'd pulled up this playlist that we played in the car the whole way down. It's like, Marvin Gaye and Aretha Franklin and all the old classic rock stuff. And I just started singing. And I noticed when I was singing that Baby came over and like rested her head on the windowsill. And she's just watching me. And then get that big breath out and the licking and chewing. And you know what? That feeling, that awful anxiety and whatever it was, just dissipated. And it occurred to me like those weren't my emotions. And she was lonely and bored. And she's one of the few horses I've known that actually really enjoys music. But so I just kept playing music for her in the barn, and it really changed her just whole outlook. I was eventually able to get her back out in the field with her siblings, but that was like a light bulb moment for me when I was like, oh, maybe maybe it's just not me here. I've been taking on everybody else's emotions, and again, being in my ego, thinking they're mine and that I have to react to them, instead of sort of trying to separate myself, settle myself down, ground myself. Where's it coming from? Is there something I can do about it? Anyway, that's all I wanted to share.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I know Ellen here and John both are heavily involved in music and have been forever and ever. and the power of expression. And I listened, I don't know if anybody saw any of Jesse Jackson's memorial the other day, but there was some music that just made me weep. And it wasn't the lyrics, it was the heart. It was, and it's art, it's expression that comes from love. And what I would encourage, or at least what came up for me, Sarah, is that we go a step deeper than music into, I mean, that is coming down from that upper tier that is multifaceted. And you recognized a difference. We can do that with our horse. I recognize a difference when I ride. I can be sitting in the saddle doing the exact same thing, but it can be different in some way, right? I know Ava is very aware and key on feeling different than the doing, right? And so the music is like a portal, but the portal isn't the answer. I talk about with horse people a lot about this, because we all feel, or the majority of who I'm looking at here, feel free when we're with the horses, but then we get with those people, and that's where we really are challenged to see. And in the Course in Miracles, there's a line that says, this must be complete. It can't be conditional and be real. So that's why it's not that it's right or wrong. It's beautiful, and it's a pathway and a great realization. Rachel texted me the other day about, I had asked her a question and left her with that. And then she wrote to me the next day, and my response was good looking. Good looking. That was good looking. I don't ask the question for the answer. I ask the question for the looking. So the response, whether it's positive or negative, we see that and we can feel that. And then, as you brought up, Sarah, you brought up the empathy, or the being attuned to the whole, and that too, then, because if it's limited to a certain thing, then we have more work to do. And that's what Viktor Frankl's book demonstrated for me. But thank you. That is such a powerful expression, and the horse, a perfect mirror. Especially an abused horse, or a wounded horse, or a confined horse, especially when the horse is in a compromised situation as well. And you can really see that. So thank you for that. That's really great. Do you have anything you want to add before I move to John? No, good. Thank you for that. John, my friend.
Okay, well, some of what we've been talking about, I think, relates to the story I'm going to tell here. First of all, I want to just mention a book that plays into this discussion, and it's a book called The Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows by John Conan. And what it's about is about the author takes words from other languages, combines English words together, and creates a single word or a couple words that express a feeling that Americans in the English language will spend paragraphs talking about. And the Germans and others have a word that's 16 letters long that conveys some deep feelings. So with that backdrop, I want to talk about February 17th. February 17th, Ellen was asked to open a session of the Oregon State Senate by singing a song. And so
Really? Why didn't I know that?
well, it was a conversation I had with the Senate president, and he asked for Ellen to come and sing. And so I thought it would be the best song to sing is the song that I wrote for a friend of mine who died back in 2001. You were mentioning poverty and the existence of the world, all of that kind of thing. He was a great advocate for anti-poverty measures. And when he died, I put off writing the song till the day he died, and I wrote the whole thing whole cloth. You know, those kind of moments where you feel something is coming from someplace else.
Yeah.
Anyway, the song has been in videos. It got airplay because it happened around 9/11. I wrote it in August of 2011. People thought the song was about 9/11, but it actually was a tribute to my friend Jerry. But as you find out about works of art, people will find other meaning in it, and I'm happy that that's been the case with the song. So anyway, Ellen sang the song, and it was just beautiful. And she had both Republican and Democratic legislators that came up to hug her, and there were tears in the audience and all that. It was just really, really great. And the reason that I bring this up in the context of Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, where the word sorrow is rooted with the word satiation. So in a sense, it means fullness. And so it was a very full day in remembering Jerry and the song itself. But it also happened to be the day that Jesse Jackson died.
Oh,
And also Avell Gordley, who was the first Black senator in the state of Oregon. And I worked very closely with her, and she was a great friend. And it was also the would have been the birthday of our granddaughter, would have been her 23rd birthday. She died a couple of years back of a brain tumor. So now all of those things compounding sadness and all that led to that whole sense of fullness. I had the full experience of what I wrote about Jerry way back when, and Ellen and Gary came up with this beautiful music. It's just a really great pairing. But then thinking about other people, icons that I knew that have passed. And in this month, I've also been to two memorials about people I work with, colleagues, close colleagues. So it's that time of life when that kind of thing happens. But I find that my sorrow is more akin to that fullness. I feel that you feel love and loss at the same time, and they're all very acute when it comes to the presence of your mind, but it operates in the background in a way that continues to inform us and inspire us. So I just thought I would share that story because, and I highly recommend the book. I'm on my third time through it because you can just pick it up and put it down. You can read about one word. So for example, I'll give one quick example and then I'll be quiet.
no, we love it. Keep going.
Well, one of the words that's come into almost common parlance is the word sonder, which he borrows from French, which means dig deeper. But what he uses that is to talk about how when we're out and about and we've gone to Fred Meyer, and so we're all on our Fred Meyer kind of vision. We are the stars of our show as we walk into the store, and everybody else's background. Well, everybody else is star of their own show, and we're background to them. So we share in this way that's kind of really an interesting one. And just that whole sense of being present is also married up with our sense of, well, this is all about me and I'm doing this stuff right now, but everybody around us is doing their stuff. So it's an example of one of the words in the book. And it's just a really fun read. But the biggest takeaway for me is that whole idea about the equating of sorrow with fullness.
I love equating sorrow with fullness. As you know, I might have said here before, Mother Teresa saying, I hope my heart breaks wide open so the whole world can fall in. And that is when we get raw, and absolutely surrender from our thoughts. When there's death is an amazing example of that, because we can't control it. We can't bring them back. We can't change what is. And grief is one of the most transformative of emotions that we can feel. And I know both of you have experienced a great deal of that. I mean, more than it's sometimes I would imagine I've been there in the past where it feels like a flood, that and we know when that happens that, well, I have a saying, I'm not doing anything, I'm being done. And that fullness that you speak of, I'm involved in a group hi, Karen, it's so good to see you, honey. We probably missed the beginning because of daylight savings happened.
Okay,
Yeah, but I'm recording, so I'll send it to you.
thank you.
But I'm involved in a group with a brilliant, I don't know what to call her, those things that don't have names. And she has that communication with all life that is not individualized so much, but life itself. And one thing that she says all species agree on, except for the human beings, is that at the moment of death is the greatest of experiences that we have, that this love, that this, and that whether it's a tree or a dog or a horse or a deer, that nature in general knows this. And in our lives now, it's a very interesting time to be a human being because of AI coming on, and there are major changes that are going to happen to this species because of our thoughts and opinions about what I said earlier, that an experience can bring us peace. But what I'm hearing you say is that the experience of sorrow brings fullness. And that's that which passeth all understanding, right? That is beyond what the level of mind can think. And in regards to words in this book that you talked about, how they talk about words, I was listening to Yuval Noah Harari interview the other day, who is a historian that is, I think he's brilliant, but oftentimes he talks about AI and how it could affect. He is as a historian, he is extremely brilliant on cultures and how they're developed and what the fall from, of empires and democracies and different things like that. And he was talking about how AI will change our dependency on words, because AI can translate the Bible in a matter of seconds and will supersede that. Like you said, Americans can often use a paragraph to describe what the German says in one long word, right? And it takes it to a new level to think of as Yuval calls it, an alien presence, not artificial, but alien in a sense, because it won't be guided anymore by the human. It will go beyond that. And so we're going to be faced, in fact, he's written many books. He's sold 56 million books, I think, all over 6 countries. And he says, I'm working on a book right now, and I think it'll probably be my last book, just because of how words are going to be affected in this modern society. And so I was really sitting with that as someone who is very fond of words, obviously, as those who know me know. And I was sitting with that, and I went to my guru about it. And my guru is nature. And I went to nature, and I was pondering my dependency on words. And I see every single morning and in the evening, we have hundreds and hundreds of crows that go from the mountains down. I don't know where they go. They go to work. It's right. They all go to work, and then they come back in the evening traffic, and I've been watching this because I happen to be in the hot tub during morning traffic. And it's fascinating to understand that nature is so effective without words, that there is not this micromanaging and controlling and having to change what is. And I was watching this morning, was it this morning or yesterday? Anyway, recently. And this one flock was going, it was last night because they were going that way. And they're going along, and I saw this one single crow coming this way. I'm thinking, hey, okay, like that's me. The one that backs into a room, that the backwards one, this crow's going this way and 100 crows are going this way. But as that crow flew that way, it came and just turned and joined the leaders of that group. And it was so poetically done without thought. But we are so geared to have to know, and that this goes back with not knowing that the just look idea, the just look idea, that when we are just looking, it is prior to thought. It is open. It's not adding our thoughts about it. That's what a conscious awareness is. It's awareness prior to thought. And that is our consistent source of freedom. It is, if anybody hasn't experienced it, I met somebody yesterday that has not experienced that. And I'm like, oh, I want to get with that person, because once you experience it, you may not practice it. That's easy to fall prey to habit, but it's undeniable that there is no past and no future and no gender and no pain, no suffering in awareness prior to thought. And when I look at my guru out here, what is natural, what is created, not what is made, it is in everything I see. Everything works with everything else. And death is not a death sentence, if you will. It is, they say that life is not the opposite of death, birth is. So we have birth and death. Rachel says, for me, nature has pause, but no full stop. She allows flow and supports us if we could learn to lean into her wisdom. Perfectly said. Yeah. That. And in order to even, I would say, become that, Rachel, because we lean into as we first recognize it, but as we're there, we begin to see that that is us, that it's not separate from us. That true nature is who we are. And as you were talking about, John, words and interpretations and all of this, that comes secondary. We wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have those interpretations if we did not have awareness.
I just want to mention along those lines, you were talking about AI earlier, and I just want to mention something very quickly. Michael Pollan has a new book out called, I think it's something like The World Appears, and it's about consciousness. And he makes the point that some others have made, that AI will never become conscious in the way that we think of it, because he says, and others do, that consciousness arises out of feelings, out of emotions, not out of thinking. And so I was writing some of my own stuff and thinking about that. And we're also Western influenced by the whole idea, the Descartes kind of idea that I think, therefore I am.
Mm-hmm.
And a better way of expressing it is we feel, therefore we are. And I think that's a connection that makes us separate from whatever's going on in that tangled business of AI.
Mm-hmm.
Our consciousness springs from our feelings, and I don't think we'll ever have a feeling machine. So
I agree with that, but I would counter on that consciousness comes from our feelings, because I see that our feelings come from our consciousness. And because of the act of meditation, is that we can have consciousness without feelings, but we can't have feelings without consciousness. If we were without consciousness, the feelings would have nowhere to land.
maybe it's a chicken and an egg.
Yeah. But it's undeniable to me, and I'm just speaking personally, that my personal experience, when I meditate, and I just say the word meditate, as Rachel put it, you could put the pause button on the thoughts, or whatever anybody wants to call it. But with practice, I can be without past, without future. And then soon I find out, as I'm experiencing that, I say, is there a gender? No. And I've asked hundreds of people this. I've taken people through this practice, and everyone answers the exact same way. Every single one of them. And I don't prompt, I don't give them the answers. The answers are consistent. Is there an age? Are you a certain age? No. Is there a start and a stop in this awareness? No. Is there anywhere that it isn't? No. And that's the purpose of this group. The purpose is that we can talk about this just looking, without the label, without the answer, allow life to live through this rather than us living our life. And it's a profound shift that changes everything we see. And it needs to be shifted because how we see things is what we create. And we can look at the world today and know that we need to shift how we see things because the world is in a serious upheaval. So, but I absolutely, I ponder the AI question because of what I call, and you guys probably have heard me say here a lot about integration. So life is conscious, and probably even if there's the end of the earth, life will continue. I mean, we're not alone, right? This is a universe, a multiverse, and so, but we are here now, and we are in this experiment, the human experiment. And what are we going to do with it? And the only place it really matters is within our own life, because that's our consciousness. That's like the way I like to describe it. If you took a picture and you went to the ocean and you dipped it in the ocean, and you have this picture of ocean, and you drive back inland and you set the picture of ocean on the counter, it's still ocean, but it doesn't look like that. Do you want to say anything more, John, before I go to Miss Annie Blackwood, who is so great to see you here? You have.
No, thanks. Well, we could have a longer discussion about the what you brought up about how you view feeling and consciousness. I do think that there's some more discussion to be had around that, but I'll be quiet for now because I'd like to hear from Anne.
Okay, well, sounds like a dinner date in our future. Anyway. All right, thank you for that. Hi, Annie.
Hi, everyone. Well, just one note on the AI thing. Carrie Lake did an interview with Rick Archer on Buddha at the Gas Pump. That's really neat, and she's doing some neat stuff about that. So check that one out. It's kind of cool. But that's not what I was going to circle back just to kind of the nuts and bolts of the practice of the brush pile situation. I recently had a brush pile situation, and I just because I found out Monday that my horse had to leave and where he's staying. And that's a really, really stressful situation, right? To figure out, like, or to all of a sudden you think they're good and set to go, and then you got to move them. And anyways, so, but, and of course, so I'm just, the wheels start spinning out and just like, just catastrophizing. But my practice then was, so first, like, you can't get clarity kind of in fight or flight, right? Like, so with Grace, you backed away from the pile. So like what I decided was like, I need to just go to bed. Plus I was sick, and just like, okay, go to bed first. And then like woke up in the morning and was able to kind of go back to that sense of finding peace with the knowing that like, it will, like, I had one more moment, and I just said, well, what's going on right now? Like, right at this very moment, my horse is okay.
Yeah.
And that nothing has to change right now. And I'm okay, and he's okay right now, right? And then I went to bed, and then I got up, and then I just kind of came to peace with the fact that there will be a solution. I might not know it right now, but there is. So I guess, but so I was like happy, but it's just like that I was kind of able to do that, but I also
Yeah.
was like in fight or flight. So I guess I just like the practice though, I don't know, like how we work through that and to get back to that place of like kind of surrender.
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
That's
I'm
a
not
great
articulating.
example because
Yeah.
also, as many of us feel, there's almost nowhere, at least for me, that I'm more vulnerable than when it comes to my horses, right? I mean, that I remember when we moved in, there was a forest fire 2 weeks after we moved in. We had 6 horses here, and so I really empathize with. There's also what I would call almost a maternal instinct that you're battling with there too. That and but what's so interesting, and I want to, if we can open up this conversation a little bit, I think it would be really helpful because naturally we tend to catastrophize, and that's what you intercepted. Well done, my friend. Well done. I had the other night, my dog got into a kill the other day, and sure enough, 1 o'clock in the morning, he's just puking, and I'm like, get out, get out, get out, and this is the pup who I use a radio collar on because he's a runner. But I kicked him out at 1 a.m. and he was gone for hours. And I had felt the same way. He had no collar, nothing, I felt the same way, and did the exact same thing as far as there is, even if I lost my dog. So it's kind of tough because we can't rely on the outcome. That's what I said at the beginning of the group was we want an experience to bring us peace. We want the outcome to bring us peace. But what you did is a great example, is bring peace to the experience. And then there's a really powerful magic that happens when we do that. And that is the whole world opens to opportunities, because fear is a contraction. We contract how we see things. And most of the time it's duality or polarity. Stay or go, right or wrong, good or bad, live or die. And that is the habit of the human race, is to live in this labeled polarity. Even if we put lipstick on a pig, we're still trying to operate rather than be peace. And your example, that I gotta hear, you gotta tell me what happened with Verity. Did you take him somewhere? Yeah, this amazing. Annie lives in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, you guys. I mean, really, it's like the fanciest town in the, US, and probably also the most expensive.
Yeah. Luckily, there's a lot of really giving folks, like there's a lot of folks that are, yeah. So actually, yeah. So I talked to the guy, and he had told, because I was like, well, what about the pasture next door? And he's like, oh, he's had so many bad experiences. There's no way, he's just done having boarders and stuff. And I was like, well, can I have his number anyway? And so I had left him a message, but I went to bed, and again, and I was just like, actually visioning, I was envisioning the feeling of, what if he said yes?
Very good.
And the next day he called me, and he was very stern, and he's like, here's the deal. And somebody talked, and the guy I was boarding from had really good things to say because I am a good boarder.
Yeah.
My horse, my 4-year-old was chasing around the 33-year-old mare, and it just wasn't going to work
Oh,
and that's why he had to leave because
gotcha.
my horse is just young and silly.
Yeah.
And anyway, so yeah, we just had to fix the fence, and so Verity's he's just right on the other side of the fence,
Oh,
and not
wonderful.
yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so it turned out better, but yeah, that I also found that too, because like in when I'm just crying and I'm just in fear and like it feels like there's no options, but like settling down into finding that peace, then all of a sudden, like you know, just options galore started, you know, coming
Yeah.
out, and just staying in that, knowing that it was going to be okay, and it resolved 100 times quicker than my first horse
Yeah.
experience since I moved here. So yeah.
Yeah.
But thanks to that
I
practice,
remember,
though.
I used to have a saying that, because I was self-employed all my life and single majority of it. So if things went wrong, there was not, who am I going to lean on? And I remember I would always say, have I ever not made it? In my whole life, have I ever not made it? Yeah, it's been uncomfortable, but that is really great practice that you could open to, especially somebody that was kind of stern, and to be able to stay in that, it's so powerful, because again, the guru being nature, if we look at nature, it's never, the change is constant. It's always morphing and changing and developing and dying and rebirth. And so the opportunities are not limited. Go back to the crows. I was watching them. They fly. It was foggy this morning, so they were low, but they sometimes fly in the heat thermals, and sometimes they fly so high I can't hardly make them out, but I can hear them. And they're adapting to everything. But we get very streamlined. And you know what Ray Hunt used to say? Sometimes he'd say, well, the devil you don't know might be worse than the devil you know. Because we would tend to try to create something, and maybe even in that ambition to make something better, we make it worse. But letting go, and there's a saying in AA, let go and let God, And in my book, I talked about how the mind often supersedes God. But I think I even said this, stand down, I got this, to the powers of life. Really? Oh no. Now I say, thank God I'm not in control. Right, Carolyn? Carolyn and I talk about this a lot, that especially now that we've been having conversations about not knowing. And really, when you live that and practice that, how the miracles begin to show. And so I've seen Annie through great changes. We've been friends for enough years, and to get to watch your transformation is just an honor and a pleasure, my friend. Well done. Well, Carolyn, you want to jump in? I baited you.
Oh,
There you are.
I have just been listening and filing information that I want to take a look at
Yeah, good.
in the next couple of days.
Okay.
I have nothing, nothing that I want to add.
All right. We just,
It's incredible. I just want to say it's an amazing connection and meeting that we're having to.
oh,
Thank you.
good. Good, good, good. Well, I always love, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I just, God, Carolyn and I get into these talks sometimes. And man, oh man, don't we? It's so like what we were talking about that where does it come from? Oh, by the way, speaking of putting anybody on the spot, Ellen, you got your guitar? Would you be interested in singing us that song? Everybody want to hear Ellen? God love her, bless her. Will you
Absolutely.
unmute, John? Unmute, Ellen.
I'm muting now. Yeah, what she's
Hopefully it'll come through. Sometimes Zoom has weird background stuff, but
yeah.
I thought that might be a fun way to close out the meeting.
Yes,
Where is,
would be.
I'm trying to find what I did with the envelope here.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Searching all around. Yeah.
I mean, that is definitely putting somebody on the spot. I can only do that because Ellen and I've been friends.
yeah.
forever.
Hey, I've got an idea.
Okay,
Let me send you all the link because
okay, do that. Is it the link from the Senate when you were down at the?
no, it's
Okay.
not. It's prior to that. It came, what I did was there's a spiritual center in Portland called the Portland Spiritual Center of Living.
Original name.
So they asked me to come in and to do a song around the sermon that they were going to deliver that day. So it was about what the song is about.
Oh, perfect.
And so I give a little talk about going to the Million Women's March in Washington, D.C., which John and I did, and marvelous experience, as you can only imagine. That was back in 2017, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. And so following that, I got the call to come in to perform this song. And it's a really good video. You can hear
Oh,
it.
great, great,
You hear
great.
the instrumentation. It's a much better presentation than what I could do right now.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I know. I'm just,
No, that's okay.
I'm burning bridges here today, but you know me.
No, you're not at all. In fact, keep talking. I'll find the link and put it
Okay, and add that. I'd love
I'll do
love
that.
to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure I've got some chats here while we're doing that. Did I? Yeah. So Sarah says, this is the episode Mary was referring to, the murder house. The rest of the episodes are sequential chapters of the book. Highly recommend you guys have a listen. It's really powerful. And Ellen says, Brendan the Navigator, the Irish mystic. I've never heard.
He put that up there.
He was,
Oh, you put that up. See, it says Ellen. That's why I keep saying, giving you credit.
Brendan the Navigator was an explorer as well as a mystic. And no offense to my Scandinavian friends, but Brendan the Navigator discovered America before Leif Erikson and others. So they made boats out of leather. And so Brendan the Navigator, they're out and they're lost in the fog and they're searching for Tirnanog, which is the sort of paradise that sort of existed to the west of Ireland, or so they thought, and coming upon America. And there are beehive huts that are notable in Ireland that have been found in New England. So Brendan the Navigator, you found
Yeah, look at you, Johnny on the spot.
Yeah, that's great. So I always love that quote, and there are times, when there's nothing else to do but go with the flow, as we said back in the 60s and still say these days.
I love that. That's see you, Gretchen. Love you. Yeah, I love that. Let us pull in our oars and leave the voyage to God. That is just beautiful. That is a good place for us all to chew on until the next gathering, and there will be a test, you guys. I say that and then I forget what we talked about from the last time, so, but.
Okay, give me a second. This is going to take a minute because there's a lot of link words here I got to deal with.
Okay.
But
But I just I want to thank you all so much for what really means the most to me in this gathering is the dedication that I feel from you guys. That Magnus and I always look forward to it. I start getting jacked up about a week before, and I'm thinking of you all. I can see your faces in my week, while I'm like, oh, I get to see everybody, and what are we going to talk about? And I'm remembering each of your experiences, your life experiences, what you bring to this group it's irreplaceable. It is. I used to say to clients that what is there, almost 8 billion people on the planet, but there's only one of you, and there's never been another, and there will never be another. So everything that you bring to this gathering can only be found here with us in this. And then there's what Magnus and I call the third entity, which is each of us brings something. And then there's this collective that only can be found here with us. Thank you, Ellen.
Well,
Everybody, there's your link. I'm going to listen to it when we hang up. And I love you all so much. Do you want to add anything? I'm putting people on the spot today, so you're on.
No, I just want to express the same gratitude, because the sense of community is really important. I have Mary. There's a lot of years that I didn't really have anyone to share these kinds of thoughts and insights with, and I felt really lost and alone. So it makes a huge difference. Made it, still does, that there's a community.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Yeah. And it's just so rich, and every time it's like Christmas, because we never know. Never know what's going to come forth. But thank you. We'll see you in 4 weeks. And hopefully I'll figure out my whole link disaster that I experienced today. But I don't think we left anybody out. And by then, maybe you guys on the other end of the earth will have daylight savings time too. I don't know when that starts for you guys. Next week?
No, end of March. 27th of March for us.
End of March. Okay.
wow.
I think I just joked on my coffee. So. Bye. Love you guys. We'll see you next time. Thank you for coming. All right.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Leave that.
What?
Leave.
Oh, leave. That's right.